Here in Canada, consumers seem to want either really big crossovers or very small crossovers, and Hyundai recently has done a great job making their vehicles fit what consumers seem to want. They've been doing a great job coming out with new vehicles like this 2020 Hyundai Palisade Ultimate. Now, it does share the same platform as the Kia Telluride that we featured earlier this year. However, that vehicle is built in the United States, whereas this one is built in South Korea. So think of it more as a cousin vehicle than a proper sister vehicle. Our test model is priced at $53,999 Canadian and does come fully loaded for our market. So what does this have to offer, and how does it compare to something like the Kia Telluride? We're going to be going over everything you need to know and seeing if this vehicle is winter certified here in Quebec. Well, there's been a lot of talk about the Palisade. I'd be very surprised if this is the first video you've seen on this vehicle, the first introduction you've had on it, because this vehicle has been available for people to drive for almost half the year now. We're getting it kind of late, but we're getting it in the snow, and I am hoping, just like we try to now on test drive, to have some snow to test it in. We do have winter tires on here, so we hopefully will be able to give this a winter certified rating if we can do some winter testing. But let's talk about the Palisade. It does come with a pretty familiar 3.8 liter Lambda 2 GDI V6 engine, same one found in the Telluride. Produces 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque. It uses an 8-speed automatic transmission with a push-button selector instead of a gear lever. It uses Hyundai's H-Track all-wheel drive system, and it also has a multi-terrain control mode, which allows you to go into Eco, Sport, Smart, Snow, Mud, Sand, and then Comfort mode is what it starts up in. You have a self-leveling rear suspension, and then all the safety features you would expect at this price point from this size of vehicle. You have adaptive cruise control with stop and go, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning, automatic high beams, and two safety features that Hyundai wants to promote quite a bit is the safe exit system. It basically uses the blind spot monitor sensor on the back to prevent the rear doors from opening. Should a vehicle be coming, your kids try to get out of the vehicle, it will disengage the doors so you can't open them until that threat is out of the way. And then there's a rear occupancy sensor, which will detect if you've left a pet or a child in the back of the vehicle. Not only will it alert you visually and audibly on the vehicle, but if you use Hyundai's Blue Link, their smartphone app and integration, it will tell you and send you a notification there as well. So there are some safety features in here. It's unfortunate that we're at the point where people need to be reminded that they have children, but we've seen that from a number of other vehicles, most specifically from General Motors. They seem to be pioneering that. But anyway, you have those features on here. You would expect that for $54,000. You have LED headlights, LED taillights, and LED turn signals. Looks pretty good on this. The daytime running lights are quite large. They're like a waterfall design coming down the front of the vehicle. You have an acoustic laminated windshield and front glass that helps to reduce some of the noise from the outside world for the front passengers. The difference between this and the Kia Telluride is the third row, the power seats there, instead of the manual seats on the Telluride. Could be a feature for some. It takes like 10-15 seconds for them to go up or down, so it does take a little while, whereas if you just pull the string on the Telluride and push it down, you get into the back a lot quicker, or you can get your stuff into the back a lot quicker depending on how you use it. You have a tri-zone automatic climate control, second row captain's chairs with heat and ventilation. The front seats have heat and ventilation with driver memory and an easy exit option. There is no power steering wheel though. You have a suede headliner, looks really nice. And then the infotainment system, as again we saw in some of the other products from Kia this year, has been updated. It uses a 12.3-inch full digital gauge cluster, as well as a 10.25-inch infotainment system, which has Sirius XM, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and can support 2 devices simultaneously, meaning you can stream Bluetooth from one device and maybe take phone calls from another. This is ideal if you're a business professional, you have a work phone and a personal phone, but you still want to make sure that you can get phone calls on both at the same time, or maybe you have a streaming service on your personal phone, but you need to take phone calls on your work phone. You have a 12-speaker Harman Kardon audio system, a head-up display, you have a 360-degree camera, and a wireless charger. Now, another feature that's different between this and the Telluride are the mirrors. They're not power folding. On the Telluride, they are automatic power folding. On these, they're just manual. Seems to be a complaint that people have on the Hyundai Palisade Owners Forum. Would have been a nice thing to have, especially at this price point. On top of all that, you have 8 different paint options, 3 different interior leather choices, and 3 different Napa leather interior choices. The Ultimate comes with Napa leather, and we've got a black interior on this. Now let's talk about the design. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I've been joking since this vehicle was announced that it is Big Kona, right? You take a look at the Kona. We featured it in 2018. They've split the headlights with the daytime running lights, where the daytime running lights are on the top, and you've got a second set of lights below that, a visible distinction between that, similar to the pre-facelift and pre-refresh Jeep Cherokee, where they split those up. And then with the Kona, you had fog lights in the center area at the bottom, so it was actually 3 different levels of lighting. So I've been joking that this is Big Kona or Humongous Kona, and then I've kind of called all the other vehicles in Hyundai's lineup. You got, you know, the original Kona, Baby Kona, and then the Santa Fe is like the regular size Kona. So they're kind of going with the design language. It makes sense. I mean, most manufacturers have a coherent design language across the board. And the inside, unlike something like the Volkswagen Arteon that we drove last week, which was about the same price, this being a brand new vehicle really is a complete shift in interior design language for Hyundai. They have a push button transmission system like we mentioned. The HVAC controls are completely different. The infotainment system is updated, and they're taking some inspiration from Mercedes-Benz. If you take a look at the gauge cluster and infotainment system, it's similar to what we saw this year on the E-Class and A-Class. That 12.3-inch gauge cluster sits further back. It's more recessed into the dashboard. When you look at the two side by side, the gauge cluster and the infotainment system, because the distance between your eyes and them, they're about the same size, kind of similar to what Mercedes does with the two 10.25-inch displays that sit side by side along the center. So there is some inspiration being taken from it. You are getting a lot of car for $54,000 Canadian. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot going on with it. So let's jump inside now. We'll talk about a little bit more on the inside as we're taking it on our road test. Again, we're hoping for some snow, but if not, we're going to be doing a regular vehicle test on this to see how it performs as a family hauler and everything else you need to know about the 2020 Hyundai Palisade Ultimate. This will be the one and only time during this driving segment that I will mention the cousin vehicle to this, the Kia Telluride. I noticed it when I was driving home. Honestly, if I closed my eyes, I would not be able to tell you if I was driving the Telluride or the Palisade. Now, obviously, if I closed my eyes while I was driving, we'd all be dead, or at least I would be. So I couldn't really do that. But honestly, the drive and feel and everything is very similar, and you would expect that from cousin cars. So it's not unexpected. It's not a bad thing at all. If you want a pretty nice ride and everything, go with either one of these. I find that everything is really good about this, especially at the price point. 54 grand, you get a lot of car for it. Now let's talk about the Palisade, the interior here. First off, as I mentioned during our walk around, the setup for the display screens here reminds me a little bit of what Mercedes-Benz is doing. The 12.3-inch driver information cluster is further back. It's recessed into the screen area, so it looks about the same size. Obviously, they're angled slightly differently, but I just feel with this bezel that goes around, it's a little bit like what Mercedes is doing, and there's nothing wrong with it. The display is gorgeous, looks really nice. There's a little bit of lag though. It will do a huge symphony of change on the screen when you switch from comfort to eco mode or sport mode. Any of the modes will change, kind of like what we saw with Lincoln, where they do this little design for whatever mode you're going into. So it does the same thing. I just find it's a little laggy. So I mean, maybe a little bit more processing horsepower behind the computer system for this would be fine. But in terms of the rest of the interior, you are getting a near premium experience. I wouldn't say it's full on premium. Again, we have plastic dashboard and tops of the door cards here. It's a little softer where you put your arms in. Again, the center tunnel here does have some softer materials, but overall you're getting what you pay for, and it's a good setup from Hyundai. Now, one thing I do hear complaints about is the powertrain. There's 3 different engine options for the Palisade. We get this V6 engine here. It's got 291 horsepower. I mean, it's not bad, but it's also not great. I mean, for me personally, I like to see about 300 horsepower in the midsize sedan segment. So when you're looking at a heavier 3-row crossover, it does feel a little light. I haven't had any problems so far getting up to speed, and unlike a little earlier on when we featured the cousin of this, where I had an entire family worth, my parents were in from out of town, so we got to test that vehicle thoroughly. I don't have that opportunity here today. It's just myself, obviously in the driving segment, but it's really just myself, my daughter, and my wife. So I can't tell you if loading it up is going to change things, but it should be pretty similar to the experience that we had before, which isn't a bad thing. I know people will ask for more power, but honestly, it's about what you need. I wouldn't say it's more than enough, but it's about what the average consumer will need on a daily basis when you're driving a vehicle like this. You're getting back and forth to school, you're going to work, things like that. This will do the job, no problem. And as you see here, we're driving around the town here. Not a whole lot of road noise from the outside. That helps with that acoustic laminated front glass and front windows. Doesn't do it for the back. I think that would be something that would be nice to do, but obviously you expect that more in the luxury segment, and on the price, this is still very good. I find that the noise, vibration, and harshness on this vehicle is excellent. You can talk to the passengers easily without any issue, but you also have that driver talk mode. You push a button and you can use the microphone near the steering wheel to be able to talk to the passengers in the back. And you also have the quiet time feature, which turns the music volume down and only plays music or anything out of the front speaker. So if you've got kids that are sleeping in the back, they don't have to be disturbed by your music. But there's a couple things I've noted driving this car. Maybe it's because we're in the winter and it gets darker quicker, so by 4 o'clock it's already almost pitch black out. But there's a couple things I've noticed that I just want to bring up. First of all, the light switches above the center console here, they don't light up. There's no lights in them. So at night, you're trying to figure out where the buttons are. It's pretty difficult. And also the ambient lighting here just isn't as good as its cousin. You don't have lights that run along the dashboard nor on the backs of the seat backs in the front. So they really just run along the doors. You still have all the color options and you can set up your own color if you want, but just not quite as much. And then without a wood trim in here, again, it's not a bad thing, but there are differences between this and, I'm saying it again, the Telluride. But another thing I noticed too, I mean, this vehicle will probably be used for people with families. It's not exclusive, and I've had people complain about that, where I've said that even minivans are likely going to be bought by people who have families. They aren't necessarily. But if you're buying this and you have a family, you have car seats, and they're the upright car seats, they don't move, it might be a little difficult getting passengers into the back. Yes, there are captain's chairs in the second row, so you could scoot through the middle, but the easy exit system, which pushes the center row seats up and out of the way, they don't move the seat fully out of the way. We saw that with one vehicle this year. Honest to God, I forget which one it was. It might have been the Atlas, but one of them just pushes the seat kind of in a diagonal direction, but keeps the seat in the same position. So if you have a car seat there, it moves the car seat with you. In this, it does fold the seat a little bit and pushes it forward. It's fine if you don't have a car seat in there, but if you do, it's just going to be a little bit more difficult to get back there. Some manufacturers are doing it. It would be nice to see a little bit more in that department, as people do rely on car seats in the second row. You really don't want to have to put them in the third row and then get back there yourself to buckle your kids in. The older kids usually go on the back with the younger ones in the center, just to make life easier. So that's something to note if you've got a car seat. We're at the point now where we don't have a ar seat anymore for my daughter. She's too big for it, so we can't test it anymore, but just something to note if you're in that market. Okay, we'll do a little 0 to 100 kilometers here. Obviously, it's not top of mind when it comes to a vehicle like this, but still. Oh, we lost a little bit of traction there. 100 took a little bit. Wasn't the quickest, but again, this vehicle isn't meant to be, so I'm going to switch it back into comfort mode, which is what the vehicle will start up in. It gets the job done. Like I said, it might be a little light on power for some people. If you're towing things, or maybe you really do just have a bigger family and you want to have a little bit more power, then you might want to look at some of the competition. But honestly, for daily driving use, this is what you would need out of a vehicle in this size segment, and that seems to be where they are in the non-luxury, non-premium segment in terms of power. You take a look pretty much across the board, and this is around the power that manufacturers are offering. They aren't really going much above 300 when it comes to something like this, and really anything substantially less than about 290 isn't going to get the job done, really. But if you're looking at this, the competition, the direct competition, pretty much any other three-row mid-size crossover on the larger scale of things, like I said, Chevrolet Traverse, people compare this with the Toyota Highlander, Honda Pilot, things like that. They're all in the same ballpark, so you're going to have to go up to something with way more power, like the Dodge Durango that we drove last year, which is kind of a different beast altogether, but you can get more power out of that if that's what you're looking for. But if you want a refined, comfortable, near premium experience, again, it's not premium, but it's near premium, sort of what Mazda's doing with the CX-9, then you've got a lot going when it comes with the Hyundai Palisade.
Now, unfortunately, we did not get any snow during filming with the Palisade Ultimate, but we did have a chance to drive it in the snow at night, and I gotta say, it performed phenomenally well. Mixed with the winter tires, the H-Track all-wheel drive system, and the terrain control system set to snow mode, made for a completely flawless driving experience. Never did I lose any traction, and I felt super secure on the road. So that is one thing that we were hoping to be able to test in the video, but you'll just have to take my word for it that it works really darn well. Let's go over fuel economy for the 2020 Hyundai Palisade Ultimate. It completed our 100-kilometer test loop in 10.1 liters per 100 kilometers, or 23.3 US miles per gallon in eco mode. By comparison, its cousin, the Kia Telluride, did it in 9.6 liters per 100 kilometers. Our week wrapped up at 12.4 liters per 100 kilometers, or 19 mpg. Again, not quite as good as the Telluride did at 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Let's talk likes and dislikes though. First off, the price is going to be one of its strongest selling points. At just over $54,000 Canadian fully loaded, you get a lot of crossover, tech, and safety. The interior comfort was also great, with comfortable seating and the front and second row mixed with the heat and ventilation for those 4 occupants. Leg and headroom was also great. Hyundai's technology is also a top pick for us, as their infotainment system is easy to navigate and doesn't come with clutter or lag like some other systems. The included safety technology is also alike, with the rear seat occupancy alert, active child door locks, and the turn signal camera view being new tech for the brand, adding to an already great suite of family-oriented safety. And finally, the noise, vibration, and harshness, or NVH, of the Palisade is excellent. The driver and front passenger can enjoy incredibly quiet highway driving, with the added plus of a smooth ride not often found on some of the more affordable crossovers like this. Hyundai is proving to us once again that they are serious about making quality vehicles that don't always conform to what the industry thinks buyers want. There's not much to dislike either. Both Hyundai and Kia have the opportunity to add more soft touch materials to the interiors to boost the quality and feel of their top-end trims, such as the dashboard and tops of the door cards. This was the same complaint that we had with the Telluride. The only other dislike we are going to add to this is the automatic high beams. I noticed consistently that the high beams would stay active far longer than I would like when oncoming traffic was approaching, and the distance between the car in front to determine whether or not the lights should come on or not was a lot closer than we've tested with other vehicles. This could potentially blind other drivers on the road, and it's something that we'd like to see looked into. But aside from that, we don't really have anything else we'd want to add to our dislike list. The exterior styling design might not be your cup of tea, but it does work for most buyers. Hyundai is going with a more premium exterior look with the painted lower trim and cladding, whereas the Telluride's rugged and unpainted trim gives that vehicle a more muscular off-road look. Buyers will either love it or hate it, but Hyundai has a solid winner on their hands with the Palisade.